Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I am Adebola Adedugba. The top stories at this hour. Millions of Nigerians face blackout as national grid collapses for third time in 1 week. Mozambique leading opposition candidate's lawyer gunned down. Gabon to hold referendum on new constitution on 16th November. And details shortly. Let's begin by telling you that Nigeria's national grid has collapsed for the third time this week, leaving millions without power. The latest collapse occurred on Saturday morning, with power generation dropping from 3,042 megawatts to just 47 megawatts. The cause of the collapse is currently unknown, as officials from the Transmission Company of Nigeria were unavailable for comment. Now, this development follows two previous grid collapses on Monday and Tuesday, highlighting the country's ongoing struggles with power supply. And now to politics, where Governor Siminalayi Fubara says one of the greatest reassurance emboldening his administration is the immense support that the people of Rivers State have continued to offer unreservedly. The governor stressed that this support is reflected in the words, actions and pledges of loyalty and solidarity from royal fathers and other well-meaning individuals in the state. He made these remarks during a post-election solidarity visit by members of Rivers State Traditional Rulers Council, led by their chairman, His Majesty Eze Chike Woluwodo, at the Government House in Port Harcourt on Friday.
Election has come, election has gone. It is only God that made it possible. It is not myself, neither our calculation. It is God that made it work that way. So we return all thanks to God and God alone. I will assure you that as a government, we will continue to respect this institution. We will not do anything within our power, directly or indirectly, knowingly or unknowingly, to undermine any of you. If we have wronged you in any way, let me say sorry here. But I don't think we will wrong you deliberately.
Would provide an opportunity for council to speak to our people, politicians, their supporters, as well as non-indigenous of Rivers State, who are fanning the embers of war in Rivers State from their safe locations outside the Rivers State.
Away from that, the African Development Bank will establish the Youth Entrepreneurship Investment Bank for Nigeria as part of its commitment to supporting young people. AFDB President Akinwumi Adeshina announced this in Abuja while delivering a keynote address at the 90th birthday lecture of former head of state Yakubu Gowon. Adeshina stated that the initiative underscores AFDB's determination to support youths, whom he considers crucial to the country's development. He added that the bank will provide both technical and other forms of support to young entrepreneurs. Describing the initiative as a new day for Nigeria, Adeshina also cautioned against the rising trend of migration, locally referred to as japa.
I know many people may think that getting Nigerians out of here, I'm not against immigration. Don't get me wrong. But I don't believe that the future of Nigerians' youth or that of Africa's youth lies in Europe, America, China, or anywhere else. It lies in a Nigeria growing very well with equitable growth, and Africa doing the same, able to create quality jobs for its own young people. And there is no doubt in my mind that we can do that. A global Nigeria will turn japa, we are living, into japada, we are back. To get there, I have some good news. I'm delighted to announce here today that just 3 days ago, the African Development Bank's Board of Directors approved $100 million for the establishment of the Youth Entrepreneurship Investment Bank for Nigeria. This new bank will support the businesses of the youth in Nigeria using technical assistance, business incubation, and invest equity, quasi-equity, and debt in these businesses, as well as deploy guarantee instruments to de-risk the lending to all this by all financial institutions in Nigeria. It will be a new day and a new dawn for Nigeria, and I want to congratulate.
And to unpack this, we're joined by public affairs analyst Allen Showore. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me on the news. Let me kick off by asking what you make of this initiative impacting unemployment in Nigeria, particularly for young people.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It is a very good development for the African Development Bank to think about the timid young Nigerians who are creative, who are ready to lay their hands on one thing or the other and get out of the very large unemployment market. It is a welcome development, and I think the present administration should take it seriously and put in place a structure, an institutional structure that will enable genuine youth who are creative, genuine Nigerians, Nigerian youth who are creative, who are entrepreneur in their various region, and have access to this soft loan so that they can be self-reliant and not think about traveling out, almost seeing the traveling out syndrome, which is called japa, as the only option for survival.
Okay, what do you make of the figure? It's, as we know of it, it's $100 million investment bank for young people. What do you make of that, and how do you see that impacting entrepreneurship for the youth in Nigeria?
For me, the figure is very good to start up. The figure is, when you convert it to Naira, is good enough. But I'm very sure that should not be all. It should be something that will continue, and the ADFB will build on it so that as many as possible Nigerian youth can have access without godfather, so to say, should have access to this loan without anybody, pushing or fronting for them, basically based on merit, on the ability to put in place the request or the proposal and have access to this loan. It's a good figure for me.
Well, there are questions as to how sustainable it is, looking at how volatile the economy is in Nigeria. Do you think this initiative is sustainable?
For me, we have in the economy, we have what is called to kickstart. Even if it is not going to be sustainable, and it should not be something that even be for long, is to enable young people to lay their hands on something to start. And before you know it, they'll be big. And it should be a revolving loan too. If they're able to accept this loan and return it, then it becomes revolving. So if you take $100 million this year and you have 500 or $50 million back to the African Development Bank next year, then you give more people, and those who have taken earlier return it again. It becomes a revolving. So that way it is sustainable. It is when it is not properly put in place that it's difficult for it to be revolving.
Well, it's a good thing.
So it is sustainable.
Okay, it's a good thing you touched on it being revolving. What impact then do you think this would have long-term on Nigeria's overall economy, especially as it affects youth engagement?
Yeah, let me break it down. If you have a young Nigerian who is into wedding, iron welding, and he has difficulty in buying the wedding machine or upgrading to the electrical wedding machine, and you are giving him a loan to enabling them to have access to buy a new welding machine. The young man employed 2 or 3 additional persons into his workshop. So that is the impact. The large unemployed market is depleted. And the moment you have a lot of young people who are engaged, the issue of insecurity is reduced, because they say it is the idle hand that the devil find work for. So when you have young people engaged, you reduce crime and criminality, you impact life, and you build confidence in the young people. So young people will no longer be out there looking for white-collar job on which on many occasions never exist again. So the impact is huge on young people.
All right, thank you so much for your thoughts on the news. Alan Showore, political analyst, many thanks indeed.
Thank you so much for having me from Iduani here, where I've just...
Nigerian youths have called on political parties to leverage their competence in advancing a youth agenda for Nigeria. And this was during a public policy conversation in the nation's capital, Abuja, which targeted selected young leaders across political parties of the country. Our correspondent Joshua Imarayi has details.
The United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs says that Nigeria's population will exceed 400 million persons by 2050, with 70% of its population under 30 years and 42% under 15. Despite these significant figures, there are still challenges in establishing adequate infrastructure to support large-scale youth development. To effectively engage young people as key players in promoting and advancing youth agenda, stakeholders say the importance of harnessing the potential of young leaders within political parties is necessary.
We've not really talked about using political parties to push the youth agenda, and on recognizing that we decided that the best way to do is to have a conversation around how we can use the resources we have, meaning young people within political parties as leaders, either as elected members, either as appointed members, or even just members of the political parties, to put them into a cross-cutting, you could say, social coalition that would together find a way to channel and chart a new course for youth development in Nigeria.
As discussions on youth engagement and advancing the youth agenda continues, some stakeholders say introducing independent candidacies could help diversify citizens' options.
Independent candidacy is something we might need to try, because we've been into this party system for a very long time, and we are where we are today. But then I believe that if we do something different, we might be able to see different results in terms of independent candidacy, introducing independent candidacy in our political system.
They however add that for independent candidacy to thrive, there must be urgent institutional reforms.
These independent persons, no matter how brilliant they are, no matter how accountable they are still going to operate within the existing structure. And therefore it is important we begin to talk about how to strengthen our institutions rather than individuals.
Some stakeholders also urge young Nigerians to actively participate in grassroots politics while leveraging social media for political activism and campaigning.
Social media is good, is a tool for dissemination of information, but most times the world does not end in a keypad. Being a keypad warrior is one thing, and being on the field to do the job, walk the talk, is another thing.
As the call for government to view young people as partners rather than mere beneficiaries of initiatives gain traction, some stakeholders say that youth hold immense potentials to drive meaningful change in the country. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
After the break, rights groups declared 20 October Memorial Day for martyrs of End SARS protest. We have details shortly. Join us again. Thank you for staying tuned. As Nigerians struggle with the current economic reality, a significant empowerment initiative has benefited over 1,200 selected women traders in Delta State, providing substantial grants to boost their businesses and mitigate economic hardship. Our correspondent, Austin Hazu, throws more light.
In Asaba, the state capital, more than 2,000 APC women traders from Delta State's 25 AGAs gathered here for the maiden edition of this Women's Summit, Empowered to Serve, focused on enhancing women's involvement in politics.
This Women's Empowerment Summit officially opened in the name of God the Father, in the name of God the Son, in the name of God the Holy Spirit. As we are empowered today, let us work together. Let us work together in cooperation. Let us encourage one another, support each other, and celebrate our diversity.
One after the other, these women received financial grants intended to cushion economic challenges affecting their businesses and families, courtesy of Stella Kotete, Executive Director of Business Development at Nexim. The APC national women leader urged women to leverage their strength, voices and talents to drive national development.
Encourage you that do not give up on empowering each other. Do not give up on empowering that woman. Do not give up on empowering that girl child. Because what? They are the future of tomorrow.
Kotete acknowledged the crucial role women played in the party's success during the last election, which yielded 2 senators, House of Representative members, and 7 House of Assembly members in the state, and subsequently called for party cohesion in anticipation of the 2027 general elections.
We decided to have this event to help women in various categories with grants for their businesses, with skill equipment for their businesses, and to ensure that we have women who will go back to their communities to encourage human capacity development within the community and externally. This summit is timely because since after the elections in Delta, we've actually now had an opportunity to gather ourselves as the ruling progressive party in Nigeria in Delta.
Beneficiaries who expressed gratitude disclosed their plans.
I want to use it to increase my fishery farming.
I'm going to use it to empower the women in my community as a midwifery. I will put it in my store that those that will come, I can be able to take care of them properly.
It's my advice to every woman in politics. Endurance matters a lot, and hard working. It is your work that will announce you.
The panel of experts thoroughly examined the advantages women acquired through active involvement in politics. In Asaba for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
The End Bad Governance Movement, a coalition of civil society groups and activists, has declared Sunday, 20th October 2024 as a day to honor the martyrs of collective struggle for liberty in Nigeria. The Lagos chapter of the group announced that activities marking the day will include a memorial procession, speeches, prayers, and laying of wreaths at Lekki Toll Gate. The group statement, jointly signed by Hassan Taiwo Soweto, Osugba Blessing, and Oloye Adegboye Gadeniji, noted that the date marks 4 years since scores of protesters were allegedly massacred at the Lekki Toll Gate during the End SARS protest, which erupted across the nation in October 2020. The group recalled that the End SARS protest 4 years ago occurred against a backdrop of decades of widespread police brutality in Nigeria, particularly by the Special Anti-Robbery Squad and other police formations, with the young people being the primary victims. Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Education has honored the Borno State government with the Most Performing State in Education Award for the year 2024. The Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman, says Borno government needs to be commended for its giant stride towards improving the education sector as it recovers from insurgency. Our correspondent, Umaru Kirawa, has details.
A state recovering from the years of insurgency and the recent September 10th flood disaster. The educational sector is one of the worst hit and now gradually picking up from the ashes of conflict and the recent flood. National Council on Education, the highest decision-making body for education in Nigeria, honored Borno alongside Enugu and Ebonyi states.
We have done very much in spite of our challenges. Borno State had moved forward, and that is why we are getting this recognition nationally. And I would like to urge the Honorable Mr. Commissioner of Education and those of us that are supporting him to tighten our belt to see that we work tirelessly to be getting more of these recognitions.
We still have our challenges, and believe me, they are not unsurmountable. So I'm happy that we are recognized by the highest apex body of education in Nigeria. We intend to do more and strive more. I'm happy as part of the resolutions, the federal government has included skills in our schools.
This recognition, according to the state government, has further renewed its commitment to tackle the menace of out-of-school children and strengthen the ministry's efforts towards excellence.
Our first 5 mega schools were all technical schools, and the concept of relevant technology where the child of the less privileged could continue schooling self-reliantly by knowing 1 or 2 skills was brought into the state system by His Excellency since 2019. The federal government is just bringing it. But 5 years ago, we thought of this and we started implementing. I am sure by the time the Federal Ministry of Education assesses this very, very seriously next year, we will receive more commendation.
The challenge now for the government is tackling the menace of the out-of-school children who roam the streets in search for survival. Experts say engaging them in the vocational training centers established by the government will go a long way in getting them set for the future, which only time can tell. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
The Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics in Plateau State, North Central Nigeria, has announced its decision not to go back on their resolve, joining the national body in the ongoing 15-day nationwide industrial action, which began October 7, 2024. According to the union's Zone B coordinator, Simji Lumpie, the decision to embark on the strike stems from the government's failure to fulfill its mandate regarding development of tertiary education in Nigeria. In a press briefing in Jos, Lumpie said the impunity and disregard for federal polytechnic art, among other issues, prompted the ultimatum.
Impunity, the sustained reports of impunity and disrespect of clear provisions of the Federal Polytechnic Act, different edicts establishing state-owned institutions, and other instruments of governance in the sector, particularly as it affects appointments of principal officers in federal and state-owned institutions, as well as other items of governance in polytechnics. 2, non-review of the contentious and suspended document titled Scheme of Service for Polytechnics and the non-release of conditions of service. Pursuant to our resolve to continue to advocate for functional polytechnic and monotechnic education system in the country, our union hereby issues a 15-day ultimatum as required by law, which commenced on the 7th of October 2024 to proprietors of public polytechnics for these items to be addressed or face different forms of trade disputes.
Some residents of Nigeria's federal capital, Abuja, have raised allegations of corruption and mismanagement in the allocation and administration of land within the Abuja Geographic Information Systems. The group, also known as Concerned FCT Residents, have called on the National Assembly and other relevant authorities to investigate the reported cases of land racketeering and corruption in the management and administration of FCT lands.
Many properties in Rivers State under the watch of Nelson Wike that was revoked, which are Muslim-owned in Rivers State, was not reinstated back to those Muslims. 65% of the total land that were revoked in the FCT for not building were owned by Muslims and were owned by Northerners. And we know so many applications have been written to the FCT ministers, so many phone calls have been made for him to reinstate back those lands to those people. And up till now, the issue have not been made public. We should come out and tell Nigerians, was there any public hearing on the issue of lands that were revoked by Nelson Wike and the application made in front of him in his office to reinstate back those lands or put those lands for a public purchase? No.
Coming up, Mozambique opposition lawyer gone down. We have details shortly. Join us again. Thank you for staying tuned. The news continues in Southern Africa, where the lawyer for Mozambique's leading opposition candidate, Vanessa Mondlane, who ran for president October 9 elections, was gunned down in Maputo on Saturday. The lawyer, Elvino Diaz, was killed with another candidate, Paulo Guambe, from the Pandemos party, backing Mondlane. Two gunmen shot up their car while it was immobile on a road in the center of the capital, witnesses said. Pandemos head Albino Fakiha confirmed the killings, while the National Lawyers Association expressed deep shock at Diaz's death. A civil society observer group, Mayas Integridade, called the repugnant murder an act of intimidation undermining democracy. Police said investigation had been started but did not immediately confirm the identities of the two slain men. The Nigerian doctors in South Africa have embarked on a remarkable initiative that highlights the power of collaboration and compassion in the healthcare and address healthcare gaps through a community medical outreach program. This unprecedented partnership aims to provide essential healthcare services to underserved communities in South Africa by pooling their expertise. Nigerian and South African healthcare professionals are working together to treat various medical conditions, distribute medications, and promote overall health awareness.
We came up with this initiative to come every year to give free medical services to our nationals so that people can have access, even if it's once in a year, to doctors who are properly trained, who are working in South Africa, who understand the terrain, who understand the disease, that is more prevalent in South Africa, to attend to them and ensure that their illnesses are properly diagnosed, give them the required medical treatment, and refer them appropriately where there is a need for that. So it's a yearly event, and this year we decided to do it around October in commemoration of our independence, which is...
In Central Africa, the government of Gabon has announced that a new referendum on a new constitution will be held on 16th November. The new constitution is intended to transition the country to a civilian regime following the military coup that ended the 55-year rule of former President Ali Bongo Ondimba's family. The proposed constitution includes several key changes, such as the abolition of the posts of Prime Minister and introduction of 7-year presidential term, which can be renewed once. The Council of Ministers have expressed satisfaction with the completion of the proposed new constitution, and the next step will be the organization of a constitutional referendum.
Par ailleurs, le Conseil des ministres a exprimé sa satisfaction concernant l'aboutissement du projet de nouvelle constitution. Cette étape décisive a permis au gouvernement de la transition, au CTRI et au Parlement de la transition d'examiner de manière approfondie les amendements proposés par les parlementaires de la transition réunis en constituante. Après le succès du dialogue national inclusif, la prochaine étape décisive du processus de transition sera l'organisation du référendum constitutionnel. Le premier projet de décret définit les modalités des bulletins de vote à utiliser, précisant que 2 bulletins imprimés sur papier blanc seront mis à la disposition des électeurs. L'un portant la mention « oui » et l'autre « non ». Le second décret convoque le collège électoral pour ce référendum. Ainsi, le collège électoral est convoqué de ce fait le 16 novembre 2000.
The Economic Community of Central African State, ECOWAS, is holding a summit in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea. Gabon's transitional president, Brice Ngouama, is attending for the first time since Gabon rejoined the group in March 2024. ECOWAS has suspended Gabon following a coup in 2023 that ousted President Bongo Ali Bongo. The summit presents opportunity for Gabon to reconnect with neighboring countries and address regional issues. President Nguema's attendance is seen as a positive sign for Gabon's future role in the region. Still ahead, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris questions Donald Trump's fitness for office. We have details shortly. Join us again. U.S. Vice President and Democrats presidential candidate Kamala Harris has raised concerns about Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump's fitness for office, citing his recent cancellation of interviews and debates. She noted that Trump has been appearing on friendly television networks but has withdrawn from sit-downs with other media outlets, prompting speculation about his health and stamina. Harris said if Trump is already showing signs of exhaustion on the campaign trail, it raises serious questions about whether he is fit for what is considered the toughest job in the world.
And now he is ducking debates and canceling interviews. Come on. And check this out. His own campaign team recently said it is because of exhaustion. Well, if you are exhausted on the campaign trail, it raises real questions about whether you are fit for the toughest job in the world. Come on. And on top of this, Donald Trump intends to end the Affordable Care Act, okay? And has no plan to replace it. You watched the debate. So you remember? He has, quote, concepts of a plan. Concepts of a plan. He who calls Americans who disagree with him the enemy from within. You know where that language comes from? The enemy from within, talking about Americans. He who says he would use the military to go after them, American citizens. He who has called for the, quote, termination of the Constitution of the United States of America. And we are clear, someone who suggests we should terminate the Constitution of the United States should never again have the privilege of standing behind the seal of the President of the United States. Never again. So we fought hard for those jobs, and we believe that you deserve a president who will protect them and not insult them. And make no mistake, Donald Trump is no friend of labor. Let's be really clear about that, no matter what the noise is out there. He is no friend of labor.
Britain's Foreign Secretary David Lammy has called for deeper diplomatic engagement between the UK and China as he concluded his visit to the country. Both nations are seeking to reset relations, which have been strained by China's security measures in Hong Kong and concerns over human rights abuses in Xinjiang region. Lammy met with China's director of the Foreign Affairs Commission Office and Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Laos, where they discussed the UK's stance on UK-China relations and address global issues, including climate change. The two sides agreed to work towards establishing long-term communication channels.
For me to be here in China just after 100 days in government. UK policy in the past under the last government was not consistent. And what I'm hearing, this was the beginning of a process. This was my second meeting with Wang Yi. We'll meet again next year. And of course, it has been important to restart dialogue between the UK government and the Chinese government in so many areas. Let's be clear, there are values areas where the UK government and our cultural approach will be different to China's, and there are important areas of national security where we will always put the UK national interests first. I believe what you need is more diplomacy, not less. That's why it's so important to be here as a UK Foreign Secretary and to keep coming back. And of course, I was able to have dialogue with the Chinese on areas where we disagree, areas like Hong Kong, areas like Taiwan, areas like human rights in Xinjiang. We were able to have those conversations and raise difficult and challenging issues.
In the women's doubles category, Egypt's head Fathi and Hana Goda successfully defended their title, securing a commanding 3-0 victory over Algeria's Melissa Nasri and Bohenyi Yasamin. Their dominance in the match reaffirmed their status as top contenders in African table tennis. The championships in Addis Ababa have highlighted the competitive spirit and rising talent in the sports across the continent, leaving fans excited for future tournaments. With both the men's and women's finals delivering thrilling performances, the event has certainly raised the stakes for table tennis in Africa. Pitso Mosimane has been appointed as the new manager of Istiklal, a top club in Iran's Persian Gulf Pro League, following his contract termination with Saudi Arabia's Abha. He replaces Sorab, who had a brief 18-day tenure. Istiklal currently sits mid-table in 10th place out of 16 after 6 matches and aims for success in the AFC Champions League after finishing as runner-ups in the National League last season. Mosimane, a coaching legend from South Africa, previously led Mamelodi Sundowns to 5 titles and secured back-to-back CAF Champions League trophies with Al Ahly. He's set to debut against Cristiano Ronaldo's Al Nassr at the Azadi Stadium on Tuesday. And Barcelona midfielder Gavi is set to return for the La Liga leaders against Sevilla after a long injury layoff. The 20-year-old has been sidelined since suffering a severe knee injury while playing for Spain in November 2023, missing the Euro 2024 triumph. Additionally, Barcelona welcomes back Dani Olmo and Fermin Lopez from injury, while teenager sensation Lamine Yamal is fit after a minor hamstring issue. However, Dutch midfielder Frenkie de Jong is a doubt for the match due to discomfort experienced in training. The team still faces challenges with several players like Ronaldo Araujo, Ferran Torres and Andres Christensen unavailable due to injury. And that's all on the news. Let's take a look again at some of the major stories. Millions of Nigerians have faced blackout as national grid collapsed for a 3rd time in 1 week. Mozambique leading opposition candidate's lawyer have been gunned down. We also told you that Gabon is set to hold referendum on new constitution on 16th November. You can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.